Barnabas, son of encouragement. A minister had been having trouble with the giving in his church. One Sunday he announced, "Before we take the offering, I would like to request that the person who stole Brother Martin's chickens please refrain from giving any money to the Lord. The Lord doesn't want money from a thief." The offering bag was passed round, and for the first time in months, everybody gave. Well, we can all use a little encouragement. One man in the early church so excelled in encouraging others that he earned a name change from Joseph to Barnabas. Barnabas means son of consolation. Barnabas is first mentioned in the book of Acts chapter 4. He was a Jew living in Cyprus. He was a landowner, and he sold a field that belonged to him and brought the money and laid it at the apostles' feet. As a result, that went into the needy person fund, and many people were helped. So Joseph was called by the apostles Barnabas, which means son of encouragement. So Barnabas had open eyes. He saw a need and he did something about it. James says, if a brother or sister is poorly clothed, lacking in daily food, and one of you says to them, "Go in peace, be warmed and filled," without giving them the things needed for the body, what good is that? Faith without works is dead. The next time we see Barnabas in action, he's bringing encouragement to a young convert who is being cold-shouldered by the church, and I think we can understand why. Saul of Tarsus, on his way to Damascus to arrest Christians and bring them back in chains to Jerusalem, meets Jesus and is wonderfully converted. As a result, when he gets to Damascus, he eventually starts preaching in the local synagogues there that Jesus is the Son of God. Everyone was amazed. In fact, there was an attempt made on his life and he had to escape. And he did this in a basket over the wall of the city at night and fled to Jerusalem. When he got to Jerusalem, nobody wanted to know him. They were afraid of him. They didn't believe his conversion was genuine. But Barnabas took him and brought him to the apostles and declared to them how he'd seen the Lord and how he'd preached boldly in Damascus. It wasn't long before Paul's bold preaching in Jerusalem caused trouble there too, and his life was in danger again, and so he was sent back by the church for his own safety to Tarsus, where he'd grown up. Wonderful stuff was happening. Many people were becoming Christians, but there was also great persecution. But those who were being scattered preached the word of Jesus wherever they went. Some of them, when they arrived in Antioch, began preaching also to Greeks. And many of those Greeks were getting converted. When the apostles in Jerusalem heard about this, they thought, we need to send someone to encourage them. And so Barnabas was the man. They sent Barnabas. When Barnabas got there, he was delighted at what he saw. But then he thought, I need help. So I know just the man who can help me. So off he went to Tarsus, found Saul, renamed Paul by now, and brought him back to help him. So Barnabas opened the door of ministry to this young man, Paul. We've got Barnabas to thank for the blessing that Paul became to that early church. What a church Antioch itself became. It became a great missionary sending church. And Barnabas and Paul were commissioned, had hands laid on them, and were sent out as the first missionaries from that church. Barnabas was obviously the leader of the missionary duo as they went out, but it wasn't long before Paul began to emerge in gift and in ministry and become the natural leader. And Barnabas was big enough and wise enough to take a slightly back seat and allow Paul to do just that. Barnabas had got more than just open eyes and open heart. He'd also got an open mind. The big issue that threatened to divide the church in those early days was should it be insisted that Gentiles, non-Jews who became Christians, ought to be circumcised, basically become Jews as well. Paul and Barnabas strongly said no, but many strongly said yes. So there was a conference held in Jerusalem, and Barnabas and Paul were sent, delegated by the church in Antioch to go and take part in this conference. When they came to Jerusalem, they were welcomed and they were listened to as they shared what God was doing amongst the Gentiles. After much discussion, a decision was made. No further restrictions or obligations to be placed upon the new Christians. We just rejoice in what God is doing. What they did say, though, was keep yourself, abstain from what has been sacrificed to idols, and from blood, and from sexual immorality, and from what's been strangled. And if you do that, that's good. You're doing well. So we've got Barnabas and Paul to thank that the early church ruled in favour of freedom and not legalism. Open eyes, open heart, open minds. That's what it looks like to be a Barnabas. Even if you're called to serve in the background, in the shadows, serve the Lord with gladness. Be interested in making a lasting difference in the lives of others. Each of us can do that. See needs, accept people, embrace what God is doing. Amen. Be a Barnabas.